This week in Cincinnati, counting the pros and cons of a $48 million school levy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The plan to expand preschool and bring new technology to classrooms. The big increase it would bring to tax bills. The effort by those on both sides of the debate to strike a chord with voters. White House hopes.
We don't need someone who rushes out a half-baked plan just weeks before an election.
The only people who get rich under Hillary Clinton are the donors.
Both sides looking for votes in Ohio this week, where the debate stands now and what it means for Tri-State voters.
The people, the headlines, the issues impacting you and your family this week in Cincinnati on 9 on your side.
Good morning. First on This Week in Cincinnati, the Cincinnati school levy. The school district says it's the financial key in a plan to help the city's youngest citizens get a good start. But that plan doesn't come cheap. It would mean a big tax hike. Joining us in just a moment to talk about both sides of the levy issue are Cincinnati School Board member Eve Bolton and the chairman of the Coalition Opposed to Additional Spending in Taxes, or COAST, Brad Beckett. First, though, a closer look at what the levy proposes to do.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Rising Stars Academy on Vine Street is the newest addition to the preschool scene in Cincinnati.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, got his own little Spider-Man.
But if the school levy passes, the goal is 2 years of preschool for every child in the district. Cincinnati Public Schools and the group Preschool Promise have teamed up. They're asking voters to pass a levy for $48 million more a year. CPS has agreed to devote $15 million a year of the levy to preschool.
Pick up your orange paper.
The remaining $33 million will go to operating costs for K through 12, with emphasis on updating technology. Voters I talked with are taking the levy seriously. Laverne Armstead owns a hair salon in East Walnut Hills. Do you plan to vote for or against the school levy in November?
I plan to vote for the school levy. I think it'll help the children out.
Will you vote for or against the school levy in November?
I'm not sure. I'll have to educate myself on the matter first.
But will you vote?
Yes, of course.
I haven't really heard anything about it, so I would have to look into it a little bit more.
Do you plan to vote for or against the school levy in November?
I will vote for. As a teacher, I vote for. I think it's important. Money allows us to do so many things to help so many kids.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Rising Stars principal Jaron Finney wants voters to know this.
It's important to have a preschool program so that students, by the time they enter kindergarten, that they're ready.
Jump like this. There was 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed.
Finney says Rising Stars' goal is to make learning fun.
We can do numbers while singing, while dancing, while jumping.
We had 4 monkeys and we lost a monkey, so 4 minus 1 is 3. Yeah, good.
In November, voters will decide for themselves if they want to foot the bill.
No more monkeys jumping on the bed. Come on, lady. It's the middle of the night. Stop calling me.
I would have liked to have had a teacher like that. First, though, let me say that the voters we talked with were not part of a scientific survey, but it is fair to say a lot of people don't know all the details of the levy, and that's why we're here. So joining me this morning to look more closely at the school levy is my colleague, WCPO education reporter Bob Driehaus, who has reported extensively on Cincinnati schools and the proposed levy. And as I mentioned before, school board member Eve Bolton and COAST chairman Brad Beckett are also here. So let's begin with Eve Bolton from the school board. This is a big ask for property owners in Cincinnati. It's actually $277 more for a $100,000 home. So voters are listening right now. How do you convince them that this is worth it?
Well, it is a very big ask, and we want to preface it by saying we have not had a new money levy generate any revenue, if you will, for 8 years. So it's been a long time, and it was a promise that the previous levy would last 5 years. We've been able to make it through the leadership of our superintendent, Mary Ronan, to last 8 years. The other way we're trying to make it obvious to folks is that we have chosen in this new levy not only operating costs, but also we have really kind of seized the moment for community-driven initiatives, not just preschool promise, but also college-bound, career readiness, ending, if you will, if possible, the digital divide that confronts us. And the number one priority for all of our folks, as we've been surveying and engaging the community for 2 years, really is to reinvigorate our neighborhood schools and to convince folks that it's not just 7 people sitting around a board table deciding this. We actually opened our books, and with the Cincinnati business community underwriting the cost, they hired an affiliate, if you will, of Ernst & Young to do a review of our books and make recommendations, and indeed they did. And then also, as we pursue the preschool piece, we also had the business community and many nonprofits contribute so that there could be a study by the RAND committee, the RAND Corporation, to give us a better idea. So we've gone to outside experts. It's been 8 years, and this preschool opportunity is just one we can't miss because Cincinnati's been at the forefront of preschool development for this state. So we know it's a big ask, but we think we've been able to prove to people that we're ready for it.
Okay, equal time. Brad Beckett, co-stand.
Carol, we appreciate the opportunity to be here today. We think voters deserve better. We think the taxpayers have been hit too many times. What we see is a district that is struggling. We see a district with low report card grades. We see a district that has struggles and troubles all across the board. I do commend them on the due diligence on opening the books and becoming more transparent. I think that's needed more in government across the board. But right now, we are urging voters to vote no on issue 44 because we've been taxed enough already. I mean, it's time to stop playing past the hat. It's time to work with the resources that we have.
All right. Well, now, Bob Driehaus has done a lot of reporting on this subject. Jump in here, Bob. What would you like to know?
A couple things. I guess I would start, Brad. If voters were to reject the tax levy, what alternative would you recommend to continue improving Cincinnati Public Schools without that extra revenue?
Bob, that's a good question. I think, like I said just a minute ago, the transparency and the opening up the books that Mrs. Bolton talked about is a great first start. I think the fact that they haven't had an increase in their levy is commendable. But again, we're talking about, what, $16,000 per student and per pupil spending? That's an incredibly high number, and I think the taxpayers deserve better. I think that we've seen poor results over the last several years, and to come back and say, taxpayers, we want more money, preschool promise. It's unfortunate that CPS has politicized the issue by attaching the preschool promise to their levy instead of letting it stand alone.
All right. You know what? We are going to talk more about this, but we're about to take a break, so we'll come back and discuss this further. There is a lot more to talk about regarding the schools levy, and we'll be right back after this.
The people, the headlines, the issues impacting you, all on This Week in Cincinnati on 9 on Your Side.